Okay, hey everybody, Tuesday evening weather for Weather Geeks time. Hope you had a good day today. Our weather today was certainly cloudier than yesterday, more humid than yesterday, but it wasn't a rainy day. And I told you on this video last evening that I didn't think it would rain a whole lot today. We had a couple of showers mid-afternoon, but nothing at the airport, which means if we stay dry through midnight tonight, that'll be 5 days in a row with no measurable precipitation at the Youngstown Warren Airport, and that would be the longest streak of 2019 so far. Other numbers today: 70 on the low side. It was a muggy start. 87 was our high this afternoon, 5 above the average. Boy, a few years ago we had a very chilly morning at 46 degrees. Wow, doesn't that sound interesting in the middle of July? And that 100, our record high for today's date, that also happens to be the last time that we hit the century mark here in Youngstown on this date back in that scorching hot summer of 1988. We've hit 100 or higher 6 times in recorded history, and the last time was 31 years ago during that dry and hot stretch back in 88. All right, 7:03 this evening when I'm doing weather for Weather Geeks, and we've had a line of thunderstorms in northwest Ohio that's had some wind issues with it, and we've seen a handful of severe thunderstorm warnings as a result. Let me actually plot up real quickly here the storm reports. There's been some wind damage scattered throughout parts of northwest Ohio and into parts of Indiana as well with our storms so far today. Already starting to see a fair amount of heat products being issued by National Weather Service offices across parts of the country. Excessive heat watches and warnings and heat advisories out for the middle of the country and actually up through the eastern seaboard as well. All of these places that are currently under some sort of heat advisory or warning will be just as hot, if not hotter than us, late this week and into the first part of the weekend. All right, tonight I think we're dry through the rest of the daylight hours this evening, and then as we head through the night, a shower and a thunderstorm is going to be a possibility. It looks like especially north of 224, maybe even especially north of Interstate 80. As Wednesday gets underway, there could be a shower around, and that'll kick off a pretty unsettled day tomorrow. This remnant low is what used to be Barry over the weekend. Now it's just kind of a meandering area of low pressure moving through the Ohio Valley and the southern Great Lakes, and it's going to allow for, it's going to trigger, I should say, a few rounds of showers and some thunder for tomorrow. One of our issues for tomorrow is how moisture-laden the atmosphere is. It's going to be muggy, but all the way up several thousand feet high in the atmosphere, the air is going to be almost saturated. This is about as juicy as an air mass gets around here. We see this a handful of times a year, oftentimes with what's left of a tropical system moving through is when our air mass gets this moist. So the concern for tomorrow is when it rains, it's going to pour, and so no surprise, we have a medium flash flood risk for tomorrow. Now, some good news in that we have been drier lately, and so more of that rain can be absorbed in the ground rather than just running off immediately. If we would have had a day like tomorrow a couple of weeks ago, we'd be much more concerned about widespread flooding issues, but even though the ground can absorb more moisture, still in areas of poor drainage, the usual places that have problems when it rains hard, we may have to be on the lookout for some issues tomorrow, especially midday and afternoon. Our hourly rain chances, I have them kind of peaking late morning through the first half of the afternoon and then slowly decreasing from probably northwest to southeast as we go towards the very late afternoon into the evening for tomorrow. Rest of the week, the story becomes the heat. Not really buying what our model is showing here on Thursday, suggesting that there could be some showers and storms across the region. I think the boundary's far enough south that we don't have to worry about that on Thursday. It's going to be a very warm, muggy day, and then the worst of the heat, Friday and Saturday. We're talking blazing sunshine. There's not going to be many clouds to cool us off, and there's not going to be much of a breeze to cool us off either. And again, we're not alone on this when we talk about the heat index values. Now, Thursday kind of begins the hot weather, but it'll peak Friday and Saturday. Heat index values Thursday afternoon, probably about 90 locally. East Coast getting pretty close to 100, but then Friday afternoon, boy, this is a scorching hot day. This is the kind of day that we have a couple of times a year around here usually, with temperatures lower 90s, heat index values pretty close to 100. You may have seen I posted on social media earlier today. We've not been under an excessive heat warning since 2012 around here. We have been under heat advisories. An excessive heat warning is a level up from that. The criteria for our local National Weather Service offices, heat advisory is 100 degrees, and an excessive heat warning is issued when the heat index is expected to be about 105. So no doubt we'll probably see some heat advisories for our region, maybe some excessive heat warnings for central and southern Ohio, although their criteria is a little bit higher because they tend to be a little bit hotter usually. Yeah, nonetheless, hot day Friday, really hot again Saturday, and 110 heat indices. I-95 corridor is going to be a possibility Saturday afternoon. So we've got two really rough days to get through. Sunday maybe almost as bad, although it's looking more and more like some showers and some thunderstorms. We'll try to push in ahead of our front. This cold front looks a little bit faster on today's modeling, which would suggest that the heat may be trimmed a little earlier on Sunday. Also raises the possibility of severe weather, I think, for Sunday afternoon into Sunday evening. And then behind that, heat no longer a story for next week. Actually, the pattern change is pretty impressive coming early next week. So thankfully, this kind of heat is not going to stick around for very long. More of a trough of low pressure east of the Great Plains states will allow for some very comfortable late July air for much of next week as the heat dome kind of shifts out west and is parked over the Four Corners region and across the western one-third of the country. So some things to look forward to if you're not a big fan of the heat. I know I certainly am not, and as we go through the second half of the week, we're going to be talking more and more about what you can do to be a good friend and neighbor and relative to those who are sensitive to the heat, those who may have some medical conditions, older residents, younger residents, and of course pets as well. We'll be talking about those subjects a lot more as we get into this heat wave at the end of next week. All right, we're going to take tomorrow off from weather for Weather Geeks. Derek, Caroline, Andrew, and myself are participating in the Freedom Warrior Golf outing at Avalon Lakes. We're going to get wet, it looks like. So Chris Sarinelli will be filling in for me on the newscast tomorrow evening, but I'll be back here on Thursday. Thanks for checking out this evening's weather for Weather Geeks, and have a great Tuesday night.